Hello everyone. Today I want to share some information about Microsoft Graph API. This is not brand new, but it's relatively new to the market and it's very helpful for a lot of organization. So first thing first, what is Graph API? Microsoft Graph API is an API layer to give you access to the Microsoft 365 data. So from the screen, you can see we have a bunch of different connection between component in Microsoft 365 data, like emails, calendar, messages, files, team, people, device. So with Graph API, you have a lot of data to access. You can read emails, you can upload OneDrive files, you can do a lot of automation with this API. So all the available service going to be provided in the link here that I have. How can we write the code to access Graph API and the high level flow? We can come to the process flow here. So the first requirement, you have to have an Azure app registration. Without this one, you cannot access to Graph API. The app registration, when you create in Azure portal, is gonna give you the ID and secret. Oh no, this like you have to create a secret. You want to have a secret, but it can give you the app ID to specify that your app. And after that, you're gonna need to grant all the permission you need for that one. Permission you want to use, and you grant to that app you just created in the previous step. For example, you can grant files read on or files read write on or mails read, or yeah, you have a bunch of other permission you can check on the Microsoft documentation. And after you have the permission set up and you want to come to your program or your code to be able to write your code to access the Graph API. So the first thing is so in your code, you're gonna send in the information that you copy from step one. You send it to the identity platform, and the platform gonna check your information and make sure you are the correct person, and then also you have the permission to do what you want to do in your code. Because when you send this info, you also have to send the scope that you want to do, like files read on or mails read, right? You have to send it as well. So it's gonna do both at the same time, authentication and authorization. So authentication is checking your username and password or your secret to make sure it's correct. And then authorization is checking the permission that you request is already granted in here. And after the check, the identity platform will send you back in an asset token for you back to your program. It's gonna live for 2 hours, and then you can refresh or you can get a new one, depend on the situation. And when you get the asset token, you just need to send the request with the asset token. So it's basically HTTP request to the Graph API. So up until this point, you actually never touch Graph API. Any other step is just setting up and then authentication. And when you have the token, you start to send it to Graph API. The Graph API go into the database and check your request and get the data back for you, and it's sent back to the app. And you can use the data to do something on top of that, or you run a new request together. So that's the high level flow of how an application or program or an script can access to the Graph API data. So with that information, I hope that it makes it clear for you how you access to Graph API, because this next part is very important and it's also very confusing. It's a permission that we need to set on the Azure portal. So with Graph API, we have two type permission. One is app permission and the second one is delegated permission. To see what's the difference, you can also go to the link here, but I can make it simple for you. So delegated permission means that you have a sign-in user at the point you run your code. So you can act as a user, like your code gonna be a proxy for that user to do something, right? For app permission, you can run it without any user sign in. So with app permission, you can need a secret to send to Microsoft Identity platform. With Delegated, you don't need a secret, but you need to send username and password, which I mentioned below here. You need username and password for Delegated, and you need a secret for app permission. And the authorization of like how you access data is with app permission. You have access to the whole tenant. Let's say you have permission files read all, you can have access to all the file in the tenant. Everybody in your company, you can access to the file if you have the app permission. But if you have a user with delegated permission, then you only have access to that user files and whatever he or she or share. So whatever he or she can access normally through the UI, web portal, or OneDrive or mails, then you can access it through Graph API. The very important concept is the admin consent. So Microsoft on the website, they say that for delegated, most of the time you don't need admin consent, and they even have permission and then a column called admin consent required, yes or no. So if you have like files permission, read write or read write on whatever, it say not require admin consent. So this is a very tricky part. So on one hand, it makes sense to not require admin consent, because when permission provided by a user by signing in with his or her username or and password, he or she can access his or her files, right? It makes sense. And you don't need additional consent from admin to be able to access your own files. So yeah, that makes sense that Delegated doesn't require admin consent. But on the other hand, for high secure environment, like in our company, which is a bank, it's really they require every permission to have admin consent to be able to run. If you cannot run your code in your company environment, maybe it's because you don't have admin consent. So just ask them to run it to you and try it again. Maybe that's gonna fix it. So this is very tricky, and I want to share that information. So maybe you stuck without admin consent because they say it's not required, but actually in some environment it's required in the total environment, not for only this Graph API permission. I think that's it. That's the short description, short introduction about Microsoft Graph API. Of course, it cannot cover everything. You can have the documentation you can look into, or you have the sample apps from Microsoft. So yeah, I think that's it. That's a short introduction about Microsoft Graph API, and I hope it's helpful, and enjoy, have fun. Bye.